Hey everybody, and welcome to Leadership Labs, an online experience for marketplace leaders who want to hone their skills, add more value to their organizations, and do a better job inspiring the people they lead. Our special guest today is my friend Jenny Boyett. Jenny is the co-founder of the ColorWorks Group, a company that helps people discover their unique temperament and how it impacts their communication. Understanding your temperament, as well as the temperaments of the people you work with, will reduce conflict and will improve communication. And the reason I say that is this content has been a game changer in our organization for over 10 years, and I think it will benefit yours as well. And make sure you stick around afterwards, and I'll tell you how to get a free resource for you and your teams. And now, here's my friend, Jenny.
Picture this. You're on your way home from work tonight and you stop by the grocery store. You need to pick up a couple of ingredients for dinner. This should take you 10 minutes tops. So you rush inside, grab the things you need, and get in line. Let's say you go to the self-checkout because you only have a few items. So you scan your first thing and you get the dreaded message, help is on the way. You look around and the cashier who's supposed to be on the way is instead chatting and joking with another customer. The two of them are pleasantly talking and laughing as the cashier fiddles with the other guy's screen. Meanwhile, you're standing there getting more frustrated by the minute. Now, I know there are some pretty polarized opinions about self-checkout, but let me ask, is the cashier's behavior wrong? Is pleasantly talking to another customer the objectively wrong thing to do? While you think about that, let's consider another situation. Let's say you walk into a meeting with your boss tomorrow morning. As you take a seat, he skips all small talk and launches straight into the details of a new assignment. Maybe he says something like, hey, good to see you, but there's no asking about your week so far or your family, or even like the weather, or the weekend's football scores. His bluntness feels insensitive maybe, but is it wrong? Okay, one last hypothetical. Let's say you'll be heading home for the holidays later this year. Big Thanksgiving dinner with your whole family. And your mom calls in September and wants to talk about the menu. She wants you to decide what dish you'll be bringing. And you're like, Mom, chill out. We have 2 months. The last thing I'm thinking about right now is cranberry sauce. Sure, your mom is way ahead of schedule, but is she wrong? Is it problematic to make plans too far in advance? The cashier, your boss, your mom, their behavior in each of those situations might sound annoying or frustrating, but are they wrong? Well, no, because you have to admit that on a relaxing Sunday afternoon when you aren't in a rush or exhausted from work, the cashier's friendliness might be nice. Maybe they joke with you for a minute or two and you leave the store smiling. Or during a week when you're slammed, your boss cutting to the chase would probably be a relief. When you have 100 emails to reply to, the last thing you want to do is waste time talking about the weather. The source of tension in each of these scenarios is the mismatch between what you expect and what you experience. You expect the other person to behave the way you would behave. You would be a speedy cashier or a kind boss. You would plan Thanksgiving dinner the week before. When faced with someone who's not acting the way we expect, most of us conclude the other person is wrong. But what if it's our expectations that are wrong? I am so excited to have the chance to talk with you today. What I'm going to share is material I learned from my friend and mentor, Kathleen Edelman. Kathleen and I met years ago, and what she taught me has changed the way I communicate with everyone, my friends, my 4 daughters, and especially the people I work with. I think it might do the same for you. What I want to talk about today is how our wiring colors our communication. And what do I mean when I say wiring? Well, the fancy word for wiring is temperament. It's the innate part of you that makes you you. It's no secret that we each have unique traits. Obviously, some people are outgoing and animated or organized. A few of us relish being the center of attention, and others prefer staying out of the spotlight. Your temperament is the set of traits that come naturally to you, like your fingerprint or your eye color. You can't change these parts even if you try. No amount of willpower will change the way you're wired. When I was younger, I had a teacher who wrote on one of my report cards, Jenny's voice carries. And my parents were like, duh, being chatty and outgoing, okay, loud, has come naturally to me since the day I was born. It's part of my wiring. Kathleen has a helpful visual for understanding this. She says, imagine 4 pairs of colored glasses. There's a yellow pair, a red pair, a blue pair, and a green pair. Each of us sees the world through one of these colored glasses. I see the world through yellow lenses. You might see the world through red or blue. Those glasses are like our temperament. Everything we do and say is colored by it, by the lens we're looking through, by the way we are wired to see the world. To give you a glimpse of that, watch how differently these 4 people react to the exact same moment at work.
Time to celebrate another trip around the sun for Cheryl. Oh, it's Cheryl's birthday and I totally forgot to sign that card. Whoops.
Time to celebrate another trip around the sun for Cheryl. Wow. Thanks for the advance notice.
Who even has time for this? Who is she?
Oh man, that's right. I gotta turn in that report by 3. I'll just stay late. Finish it. On my way.
Didn't we just celebrate her birthday?
Woohoo! I am on my way.
They probably ordered from that same sketchy bakery again. No, thank you.
Hope the gift I picked up for her last month will really perk her up. See y'all soon.
No.
Can you see how the same invitation landed so differently for each of those people? Let me ask, if you got that same message in the middle of your workday, that it was time to stop what you're doing and stop what you're working on and celebrate a colleague's birthday, what would your reaction be? I bet you can guess that I would totally be the one who grabbed my party hat. Maybe that's true for you too, but maybe not. You might be more like the guy who just typed back, "No thanks." It's fun to laugh at how different we can be, but isn't it true that some of those reactions do not make sense to you? Like if being interrupted in the middle of your workday would feel so annoying to you, isn't it wild that someone else would be happy about it? And if having a few minutes of fun at work sounds nice, isn't it kind of hard to believe that other people would feel grumpy? Maybe you've encountered this exact situation at work and been so confused by the colleagues who skipped out. Like, who doesn't want to eat cake? Other people's reactions can be so opposite, so foreign to you that it's like they're speaking a different language. Do you remember playing the telephone game as a kid, maybe in elementary school? I'm sure you remember how it works. One person whispers a phrase to the kid next to them who has to pass it on all the way down the line until the last person hears something that's usually totally different from what you started with. That's a pretty good metaphor for our communication with each other. I said one thing colored by my yellow wiring, and you heard something totally different colored by your wiring. Or as the title of Kathleen's book puts it, I said this and you heard that. We need a translator, someone to clear away all the mess in the middle, what I say and what you hear. Fortunately, that exists. It's called the 4 Temperaments Framework. And learning the framework is like learning a foreign language. It allows you to communicate clearly with people who speak differently than you. It translates what you do and say into something that makes sense to me, and vice versa. Now, if high school Spanish was a challenge for you, don't despair. Learning the language of each of the 4 temperaments is not that hard. It doesn't involve conjugating any verbs, and you can learn all 4 pretty easily. In fact, we'll get started right now. The 4 temperaments date back thousands of years to Hippocrates. He described the 4 categories, he called them humors, that he believed influenced our moods, emotions, and behaviors. The science he relied on 2,500 years ago has been debunked, but his 4 categories have stuck around. They're still used today as the basis of personality profiles like DISC and Myers-Briggs. The Greek names he gave each category can be hard to pronounce and even harder to remember, so they're often matched with a corresponding color, like the glasses we talked about earlier. Those colors are yellow, red, blue, and green. Each color, each temperament speaks its own language. Literally, people use different words and phrases. They pay attention to different topics. They behave differently, react differently, see the world in totally different ways. These differences are often positive. What attracted you to your spouse or your best friend may be the ways they are different from you. We've all heard the phrase, opposites attract. The trouble is that sometimes, I might even say often, experience these differences as problems to be fixed. In the grocery store after work, we judge the cashier's priorities not as different from ours, but as wrong, as a problem they should fix. When our boss isn't as kind or chatty as we expect, we think about him being not different from us, but wrong, even rude. Our mom isn't a conscientious planner who likes to think through every detail in advance. She's wrong. She's uptight or high-strung. When what we expect from someone else turns out to be different from what we experience, we often think that what we experience is the problem. The other person's words or actions are the problem. But as I asked earlier, what if it's our expectations that are the problem? Now, I can hear some of you right now pushing back on that. You're probably thinking, it is not unreasonable to expect a cashier to work quickly. That's true. That may be a very reasonable expectation of some cashiers. But is it a reasonable expectation of that cashier? Is small talk a reasonable expectation of your boss? Is chilling out a reasonable expectation of your mom? To know the answer to these questions, you have to consider their wiring. The 4 temperaments framework helps you do that. We don't have time to dive into it very far today, but I'll give you a few high-level details. Yellows are wired to speak the language of people and fun. They're extroverted, meaning they often speak before they think, and they are people-oriented, which just means people and their feelings are a priority to us yellows. Yellows say and respond to excited, optimistic words like, "Come with me, it's gonna be great," or "I've got a story about that, wait till you hear this." Reds are wired to speak the language of power and control. They're also extroverted, so they speak boldly and confidently, but unlike yellows, reds are task-oriented and will get things done at all costs, even when people get in the way. Reds say and respond to efficient words like, "Hurry up," or "What's the bottom line? Just tell me what I need to know." In fact, they often speak in bullet points. Why use 12 words when 3 will do? Blues are wired to speak the language of perfection and order. They're introverted. They take time to process their thoughts before speaking and are task-oriented, so they tend to prioritize tasks over people. Blues say and respond to precise, well-thought-out words like, "I've been giving it some consideration," or "If it's worth doing right." Greens are wired to speak the language of calm and harmony. Like the blues, they're introverted, so they think before speaking. They're also people-oriented, and they prioritize people above all else. Remember the guy in the video who is willing to work late in order to celebrate a coworker's birthday? Greens say and respond to easygoing words like, "I'm fine with whatever," or "You pick," or "I've been meaning to get around to that." Can you see how even with just those basic descriptions, other people's behavior starts to make more sense? The talkative cashier is probably yellow like me. We're all about people and fun. Your boss might be red. He wants to cut to the chase. Your mom could be blue, trying to create perfection and order by planning ahead. They might not do or say what you would do or say, but that's okay. They are wired differently from you. Their words and behavior make perfect sense when you know that's how they're wired. You can apply this in your real life, not just a bunch of hypotheticals by thinking about some of your colleagues you might interact with this week. Like the teammate who spends the first 15 minutes of every meeting telling stories. He's probably people-oriented, if connecting relationally is important before knocking out the agenda. Or the person 2 desks over who never takes their headphones off or looks up to engage in office chatter. He's so busy focused on the work that it doesn't occur to him to look around and join the conversation. Or the coworker who waffles on every single decision. Maybe they just need a little more time to process and think before deciding. Again, their words and actions may not match what you would say or do, but they're not wrong, and neither are you. You're just wired differently. Knowing enough about the 4 temperaments to just recognize that other people are wired differently, not wrongly, can make a huge difference. When you encounter frustrating people or moments, you can pause. Maybe take a deep breath and remind yourself that their wiring is coloring their communication, just like yours is coloring the way you react to them. For those of you who are married or parents, the 4 temperaments framework might explain so many of the dynamics in your home. The kid you cannot motivate to get involved, the one who would rather spend all of their time hanging out with friends than practicing the sport or musical instrument. It could be, and I know this is hard to admit, that the tension is not that they aren't living up to their potential, as you've maybe described it. It could be that they are wired differently from you. And what you expect them to do or say or be isn't what they are doing or saying or being. But when you consider their temperament, it all makes sense. They aren't a problem to solve or to fix. They are simply showing you their wiring. Now, the real magic of the 4 temperaments framework happens when you learn to literally say things in a way that takes other people's wiring into consideration. When you speak their language, use words they're wired to understand. That's what eliminates the crazy game of telephone that we're all playing with each other every time we open our mouths. It's what teaches you how to engage with that colleague who's always starting meetings with story time. So you can maybe say to them, "You have the wildest adventures, Bob. I love hearing about them. Let's catch up over lunch, but jump into the agenda for now." Or to appreciate that your indecisive colleague is wired that way. So it would be best to say, "Here's all the data you should need. If you want to talk through the choice, my door is open." And the next time your colleague is head down with headphones in, rather than misreading his focus as disinterest, you can instead shoot him an email that says, "I can see you're busy today. When you get to a good stopping point, I have something I want to tell you." If you have a real go-getter on your team who is quick to offer their input, perhaps invite them to lead a discussion where they can gather other people's opinions. Getting to this magical place where you can say what you really mean and other people can hear what you meant to say, it's possible. First, you figure out your wiring. Which of the 4 temperaments are you? There is a 40-question online assessment that can help you if you're curious. The link will be posted for you. Then you can learn how to be fluent in all 4 temperaments. Kathleen's book, the latest edition of I Said This, You Heard That, is a great place to start with this. It will teach you the whole framework in just a couple of hours it takes to read the book. And what you'll experience afterwards will blow you away. I promise. It will take all of the frustrating, annoying, confusing interactions at work and home, and suddenly they'll make sense. You'll know exactly why he said that or why she used that tone. And you'll have the superpower of always knowing the right thing to say, no matter who you're talking to, because you'll understand how our wiring colors our communication.
So helpful, right? And I can tell you from personal experience, not only will it help at work, it will help you at home as well. To help you discuss this content further, just visit the link at the bottom of the screen. You'll find discussion questions as well as a link to the temperament questionnaire that Jenny mentioned. As always, thank you so much for joining us. And if you liked this content, please share it with a coworker or a friend. And we will see you next time on the next edition of Leadership Labs.
No, I was off last week. I know I wasn't supposed to technically be working, but after a couple days, I started, getting a little twitchy, so.
Well, the trip was good, but the flights were delayed, so that sort of ruined things.
It was so much fun. Best trip ever. Like ever.
My PTO? It was good. Couldn't really decide where to go, so stayed inside, kind of chilled. I opened up the food delivery app, and I put different things in my cart, and then I put it back, and now I'm here.
I didn't talk to anyone for 4 straight days. It was bliss.
Originally, I was just gonna go home for my high school reunion, right? But then I looked at the map and was like, I can stop at like 4 different friends' houses along the way.
We made the drive in record time. 12 hours and only 2 bathroom breaks.
Let me tell you, we had the most fun. I picked up one friend, we went to the next friend, then we went to the next friend, then we went to the 4th friend.
It was the trip of a lifetime. I loved it. What do you mean you can't tell? I had the time of my life.
I am happy to be back. Honestly, I cannot take another day with my kids.